Good afternoon, folks. Happy Saturday, man. Hope you're having a good Saturday, dog. Took me quite a while to start this sheet. Um, not even sure how long it took me to be honest. But it did take quite a while for me to start. What's up with you guys? Sorry about that. What can I say? Very ghetto over here. Hey, cheers. Happy Saturday, though. Oh, that's good. Ooh, that's good. Mm. Ooh, that's good. All right. Anyways, gonna start simple. I want to finish this. This shit was 3 hours. I want to finish this. Nick Fuentes debate with Dave Smith. I mean, so far my consensus I'll give real quick. I mean, Dave Smith like he's a Jew, but I mean he's an American Jew, and like to me, what I'm getting is he's kind of saying like as far as the Jew problem, it's like it is a problem, but there's also Christians a part of that problem. I mean, which like is like, yeah. I mean, we Charlie Kirk is Christian and was pushing Israel propaganda and shit like that. I mean, I don't know about propaganda. Let me not say that because I didn't really. Because I feel like at a point, like at least from the clips, it's like he did have like some sort of moral high ground there, but I don't know, like like it's this tricky subject. But as far as the fucking Israel Gaza thing with Dave Smith, I mean, I think he understands, but they're more so talking about the Jewish identity, like does your typical Jew like run the bank or are they a part of this psyop? Like no, but they are like organized and loyal to each other and in my opinion, this is my words, probably coming from their parents, like you know what I mean? And then their parents, like how they're supposed to conduct themselves as a Jew. I mean, they call themselves the holy people, so it's the only thing you can assume. Y'all see this shit, gang? This John looking skimpy, skinny. Yo, I don't know what's going on with me recently, man, but recently I've been smoking, and this shit has not been fucking like usually, like I'm cool with the coughing, like I don't cough too much. Dog, I took kind of a break with smoking probably for like a week and a half, 2 weeks. And like it wasn't like a break like I stopped. It was a break like okay, I'm gonna smoke like maybe once every 2 days. Maybe. So you know what I'm saying? And dude, it like after the first like 2, 3 day break, like I smoked again and my lungs have not been the same. But we're gonna get into this.
It, but I
Yeah.
think they will
And there's no.
I'm gonna
play
go
the
back a
game. And
little
so
further.
my bigger idea is just reject. Like, and I like what you said. It encapsulates it. It's bullshit. No, thank you.
Oh
You're promising stuff you know you're not going to
what the
deliver.
fuck?
When you put the stuff out there, the big beautiful bill, $150 billion for border enforcement. They're not deporting even 1,000 people a day. Like it's nothing. And so I just look at these guys like Dan Caldwell crying on Tucker, at Kurt Mills, all that kind of stuff. People saying, we're going to hold their feet to the fire. We're going to pressure.
That's what I'm saying. Like very first hit. That's five big coughs. That's one hit. That's the ratio that's going to be my smoking ratio for the rest of my days and probably get worse. I will be stopping this shit soon. I'm not even gonna lie, but yeah, that's the example I was trying to give y'all there. But let's listen to this.
Them. And I'm like, aren't you tired? We did that already. We did that in the first term. Because I was kind of in that place in the first term where it's like, we're going to control the personnel. We're going to do this. And I knew people in the admin. I knew people on the campaign that didn't get hired because they were on the campaign. Because the people in the admin were from the Rubio campaign or the Bush campaign. And it's like, we just need something that at the end of the day is what we want. Not a compromise. I know that's not how politics works, but We just need something that is promising and intends on delivering what we really care about. And Trump was never that, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it's it's a shame in a way. Is a friend of mine, Scott Horton, always says the country needed Ron Paul and we got Donald Trump, which is kind of how I see it. Maybe you would say more like Pat Buchanan or someone like that. But I think both of us would take either of those options if they were on the table. But it is, and I do think the Epstein one was a particular. It's interesting how much that really was devastating for Donald Trump. And it was more than just the Epstein story. I think it was like
What a goddamn cuck here. What the fuck was that about?
It was like right at the heart of his political raison d'etre, which was draining the swamp.
Right.
And it was like, come on, man. What's a better example of the swamp than this? Oh, we won't touch that? Okay. All right, then. So I guess we know how serious we are about this. And
what's up with that
I got to say, I mean, I see nothing promising about J.D.
This ain't going well.
I think my view of it seems to be that I do think that he's like maybe kind of sympathetic to my foreign policy views, and I think that he does seem to err more on that side, but I just don't think he has any
right back in the game, pussy.
Anyway, I think he wants
give me that fucking queen, bitch.
Care about that, and that right there that's the deal breaker then. Okay then, so you're not, and again, to your point, I think, which I would just maybe modify, and I think you probably agree with this too, it's like, I'm not even against compromise. But there's got to be a compromise.
Yes,
there's got to be like a reasonable compromise. Like I am willing to compromise on a few things, but the compromise can't be I have to bend over and grab my ankles. Like that's not not a reasonable compromise that I'm trying to sign up to. So it's like I just don't, and I wonder because there's always two ways to look at this, and like the conventional political thinking, the Charlie Kirk thinking, would be like, well, any dissension here only helps the Democrats, right? So if we're not all rallying around them, then we get the Democrats who are the worst, biggest threat. But of course, I think our rejoinder to that would be that, well, no, not releasing the evidence is what
I'm taking that horse, by the way.
And when I say file, just not getting to the bottom.
I'm taking that horse, by the way. He doesn't even see it.
What is J.D. Vance?
He's not up on game.
I mean, how is he going to capture?
He doesn't know how to play.
Energy
He's
Donald
4
Trump
years
had?
old. This guy
furious
playing
with this system. The system is so corrupt.
Absolutely
so
not up on
dishonest,
game.
and
I'm about to
so,
give him a
such
real bad time.
To every American that we want someone to go in there and be a wrecking.
See, that's the thing. I can recognize when it's getting bad quick.
Gonna capture that energy.
Like, watch this bang.
Just nobody's believing it anymore.
Now, if you don't bring this up here,
you're
you're
fucked. A
fucked.
lot of people just forgot really what he was.
I think I want to bring this night up here.
I feel like not a lot of people actually voted for him in 2016 that are around now. Yeah. And you and I know because we both. I mean, you're around longer than
Follow,
me. We
subscribe, nigga.
And
YouTube,
I feel like there's a lot
Twitch,
of young people and
Gert.
maybe even like big supporters of Trump now that weren't really with him in 16. And so, what I'm trying to say is, for a lot of people to have amnesia, they think that he's a Republican, he's a conservative, because that's really what he's become. That is what he was in 20. That's what he was in 24. He's against the radical left. He's against the Democrats. But in 16, he started out fighting the Republican establishment.
Lied.
And he really ran as like an independent.
Yeah.
And I always go back to the proposition of Trump. This is my basis for not voting for him last year, which is not I'm better than the Democrats, which is the minimum. You're a Republican. Oh, he's better than Kamala. Okay, isn't that a given? Like, shouldn't you be? It's not that he's a conservative or anything like that. He said, the system is rigged and it's broken. I will break it because I'm rich. I'm so rich, I don't need to take their money. And if I don't have to take their money, I can actually deliver real change because I don't have to worry about
I'm in a good spot right now. In a real good spot.
Premise. And that was his deal.
You don't even see the plot.
Like, you watch this
I'm gonna
now
do this.
and
You're
you're
not
like,
gonna see
where's
it.
this guy? That famous clip where he goes, they're booing him, and he goes, that's all donors in the audience. I don't want their money. I don't need their money. And everyone resonated right, left, and center, said, yeah, fuck the system. That's true. They're bought off. That's why nothing ever changes. He's rich. They can't buy him. That was the idea. Obviously wasn't true.
He's clearly nowhere
now,
close to being
in
up
24,
on
when he got
I'm about to
200
fuck his
billion
ass.
or 200 million from Tim Mellon and from Elon Musk and Ken Griffin and Mark Andreessen, the usual suspects. And with J.D. Vance, like you said, it's just even worse. It's disgusting that anyone's even considering voting for him, to me, because it's like, at least Trump had kind of a claim to be that guy because he was this like bombastic billionaire from the private sector. Vance is like your prototypical political artifact, like a creation in a lab, like fake career, fake name, fake book, patrons in the CIA. Like, he's a nerd. He's not even really that conservative, you know, the fake conversion. Maybe he's a real convert, but it seems too convenient. Like, he's everything that Trump ran against. He's like Jeb Bush. He was calling Trump a Nazi and voted for McMullen, and it was a never Trumper. So, and I'm just unloading my case against him, but it's like they could not be more different. So to your point, how are you going to sell that? I don't know how any MAGA person is buying it.
What do I do here?
And there's another thing where, like, you know, the vice presidency, you know, the role, it's an interesting job because there's really not a job. Exactly. But it makes you kind of like, oh, you're the next in line. But if you just remove that for a second, who would have ever thought J.D. Vance could carry a
I'm giving
national
him the
election?
fucking...
J.D. Vance is not Donald Trump. Donald Trump is the most famous human being who's ever lived, who's bombastic and charismatic and just like owns a room like no other. Like, really is like as a unique gift in this way. Unfortunately, all of these gifts are only for like marketing and promotion and running for the. It's not like he has no governing, you know, ability at all. But like J.D. Vance doesn't have that. He doesn't have that factor, the Hitler aura, as you would describe it. You know what I mean? But like and so it's you're just looking at this and you go, so look, if you're telling me that like the radical left Democrats are the real threat, which granted they are, it's like it seems like we're staring at them having a chance. Now, I guess the only thing, and again, this is an interesting
maybe I
dynamic, one that I've never really seen before in my lifetime, is where you see when Donald Trump's support like plummets, it doesn't seem to give any boost to the Democrats who are still kind of just like in the tank. And I think part of that is just because they failed so miserably over the last few years. But I do think, like, to your broader point, and I'm not even like saying 100% one way or the other, but it's something that like I think people who are, you know, dissidents of this system and are you know, in opposition to the current regime need to think about a lot. Because yeah, like, if our vote isn't a given,
why would I
our
accept
support
the
isn't
draw
a given,
here,
then
dickhead?
it has to be worked for.
Like, what?
You know, and also that
You were fucked.
things aren't always so clear. You know, like you could say Kamala Harris would have been worse than Donald Trump. Now, in this particular example, just on the border security, probably we're better off, all things considered, with Donald Trump. But at the same time, in a lot of ways, I think you could argue for right-wing America, it was better that Joe Biden won the 2020 election.
Yes.
Like, things improved in a way that you could not have imagined them improving under Donald Trump. And culturally speaking, like, even after Donald Trump won in 2016, the culture didn't swing to the right. The culture swung even further to the left. The culture only started swinging back to the right when Joe Biden was in. It actually was easier when there was a brain-dead president who represented the Democratic Party, and we had the wins, you know, in Twitter and the stuff I was talking about with like Target and Bud Light and all this stuff. And so, like, it's just not so you know, it's not always so obvious. What's you know, as white men can't jump quote. Sometimes when you win, you actually lose, and sometimes when you lose, you actually win. And so I just think that I would hope, like, I hope maybe like Thomas Massie will run in primary him, or I would at least hope that there's something that kind of
what
gets the conversation over like no, actually, how about we expect you to be this? We expect you to actually be good, and nothing crazy. I'm not like even asking for. This is why I corrected you on the no compromise. Like, I'll compromise, okay?
Yes.
But like, don't
Dude,
get us in another stupid war. Like, you know, make policy dictated off what's best for America.
literally was an
We
accident,
have to do
bro.
something
What
about
the
this
fuck?
debt problem. Like, we have to at least attempt to tackle it because we're drowning in it. And the answer can't just be continue to debase the currency because it's destroying our country. It's like, and don't have a wide open border. Like, I'm just like,
my
so
God,
few
dude.
like, if you could just be good on these few things, I'd be like, okay, I'll hold my nose over the rest. But there's got to be some way. And especially now with the new media landscape, with the amount of influence that me and you have.
I'm
right
real
now,
pissed about that one,
I don't
actually.
know. We've
That
got
was
some
fucking
opportunities
crazy.
to say, like, hey, no, we're not just going to go along with this. We ought to plant a flag at like one reasonable point and go, we're not
Fuck
bending
me,
on
dude.
this.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think we need to throw our weight around, and we'll have a much better opportunity to do that because in 28, it's an open field on both sides. In 2016, 20, 24, Trump was like the 10,000-pound gorilla in the room, immovable. Like you, me, all of us put together. Like no one was going to knock him off that trajectory, which is why maybe it was naive for me to like withhold the vote outside of like reasons in principle or for rhetoric. But in 28, we can't shape the race because, like you said, I don't think Vance is a shoo-in at all. He's not a national figure. Very good chance he goes the way of DeSantis, where it's a failure to launch, it's a crash and burn situation, and then it's wide open. And I would say that, people say that I'm like a Democrat or like I wanted Kamala to win, and it's like you think I don't know that Trump is better than Kamala. Everyone knows that. But I love what you said about these like knock-on second-order effects because you're 100% right. Biden winning and like Trump getting banned from YouTube and all that, that's probably why Elon bought Twitter. Like that maybe doesn't happen in a universe where Trump won the 2020 election and all the other downstream effects that took place. Trump being president now is sweeter than it would have been from 20 to 24. And you could have never predicted that. Like you said, that Biden winning would force the pendulum to swing in the other direction. I think there was something true about, Trump and Kamala in 24. If Kamala inherited the war in Gaza and the Ukraine war, would we get something insanely radical in 28, like a real reset? Maybe. You can never know. What I would say, though, about 28, and this is maybe new, is like when you look at what Trump is doing, he's creating a lot of tension right now. The ICE raids, the militarization of law enforcement, the war everywhere in Venezuela, Ukraine, Iran, the advance of AI and technology. It's like, if a Democrat wins in 29, I'm moving to another country because whoever comes into power from the left is going to want blood because they're going to want vengeance for all. If they regroup, that's sort of presumptuous. If they regroup and reorganize, they're going to kill us because, like in Chicago, I live right by where this is happening. They set up this detention facility. They're rounding people up, putting hype edits of it on Twitter. It's pissing liberals off. Liberals are going to the place, protesting. The cops are beating the shit out of them and laughing and taunting them. More protesters come. Now they're ramming cars into ICE cars. The cops are shooting them. Now they're bringing in DHS. It's like we've gone so far up this escalation ladder in like 3 months. And what I fear is that Trump is not going to finish the job. He's not going to salt the earth and destroy Antifa. So all he's doing is pissing these people off. And that means the violence is going to get worse. They're going to organize. We're going to get like Mamdani for president in 28 or, something along that vein.
That was a good move.
And that's why I think it's really important that like a Republican
That's
does
crazy
because
that was a good-ass move.
So like that's kind of how I'm thinking about it because they're really barking up the wrong tree in my opinion. They're signing checks they can't cash.
Yeah, I mean, like, I wouldn't entirely close the door on Vance. I'm just like, he's got to show me something. Yeah. I got to see something that makes me go like, okay, I can get on board with this at least, which I just
3
haven't
blunders.
seen
I
yet.
fucking know.
I do worry about that a lot. I think it's something that, like,
pissed, dude. That last game
you should
was
pay attention.
bullshit.
If you think about, say, like, kind of the way the culture shifted
I'm
over
fucking
the
out
last 2 years,
200.
which really is hard to, like, overstate how crazy it is, dude. Like, me and you talked 5 years ago. We were living in a different world when me and you talked 5 years ago. It's not that long, And there's, and you could obviously see right now, like, looking at where the culture is, you're like, oh, the woke progressives really overplayed their hand in a lot of ways, right? And then there's a lesson in there to be learned that, like, things can change very quickly. And I do worry about that. You worry about like how far the Democrats went last time they were in power and what they might do again. It's also important to know that there were like a couple, for as much as I always say, like the American system is pretty broken and the Constitution is pretty destroyed, but there still are some things. And I think people don't appreciate enough the fact that the 2 major ones that got shut down. Number 1 was the OSHA.
He's too late.
Mandate.
He's too late.
Joe Biden had legislated that every company with 100 or more employees must fire anyone who doesn't get this vaccine. This would have been a huge event and massive control of
Nigga picked this road. That's crazy.
Particularly, okay, not explicitly targeting right wingers, but who the hell was it?
Fuck.
And the other one was the Ministry of Truth.
I gotta go all the way
which
through.
ended up getting shut down. Now both of these ended up getting shut down, but man, might be living in a different world had they gone through. And so who knows what they would try to do again. Also, as you talked about before, which is like kind of a broader theme, is that there is this, Netanyahu's snapback about controlling the media and how he was just openly bragging. I really couldn't believe he was openly bragging. I said on the show, I said, this video is supposed to be a secret recording where he's talking in Hebrew. Like, is he actually just on camera saying this in English? Really? But so they're talking. But I do wonder, and I wonder how you think about this, because and this is something that concerns me particularly about you and the Groypers, and more broadly, just kind of the Twitter culture or what's on social media. It does seem to me like I'm slow motion, almost like watching this movie play out, where it's like it would have seemed impossible 5 years ago. 5 years ago, or I guess 6 years ago, the second time you were on the podcast, you had just been kicked off YouTube.
I'm going for broke here. I'm trying to check me
hey,
this
you
nigga.
simply can't do these things on YouTube. Even like I'm gonna put this up on YouTube. I guess we'll test it. We'll test where they're at now. But I just see you're doing other interviews that are up there. I figured why not? I think it's okay. We're in a like you can say things on Twitter now that you couldn't have dreamed of saying. But now that the censorship regime has been rolled back and like Nazi shit is just flooding in, it does seem to me like, oh man, this is like setting up the pretext. It's setting up the pretext for like, hey, you guys wanted to have freedom of speech? Well, here's what it actually looks like. Now can we all agree that this must be shut down? And like, I'm not saying I know that's going to happen, but it's a real concern of mine. And I wonder what you think about all that.
I totally agree. And the first time that kind of was clocking to me was when I think it was on Fresh and Fit. And I love Myron, and I like Fresh too. But it was on their show where I think some like ghetto black woman said like "fuck F the Jews" and we love it, and it went like super viral. And like
yeah, I think I saw this clip.
Usual Suspects seized up on that, and it's like, and I didn't say anything to him privately, but you could see where that's going to go in very short order. Where there's no shortage of stuff like that you can find, that certain people are putting out there on a daily basis. And it's not measured. It's not nuanced. There's no point. It's just vulgar. It's vulgar. It is hateful. It definitely probably crosses a line. It doesn't like serve the conversation. Like it's one thing to say Jewish identity, blah, blah, blah. It's another to say F these people. Like that's different. And I 100% believe there's going to be another censorship push, and they're going to use shit like that to justify it. So that's why I've really tried, and I'm not the most disciplined person, but I've really been trying this year to be more restrained and measured. And that, and the audience, they perceive everything as cucking. If you're not sprinting towards the most vulgar, extreme, fanatical, they say that you got the call. But it's so important because there is a window of opportunity here. And you and I have been around long enough to recognize that because you're right. It was a different country in 2015, a completely different country. And we don't want to squander that. But then again, you wonder how much of it is even in our control. Will they do it anyway?
No, I think that's right.
We should control what we can control.
No, I think that's right. And I think that, it's something for us to even, always keep in mind too, because it's hard, like when you start growing,
whoa, no.
Right? But it's like like when you do a show and it's getting like 10,000 views
I ain't fucking
you know your audience. You're like, I know what my audience thinks.
Wow, what a
retard. Getting like 500,000, views.
What
an
actual
it's
idiot.
Like,
he doesn't know how to play chess. I'm so lucky.
It's like the whole lot, but actually, no, that's not the whole lot. There's a much bigger audience. And like, even as you've said, as you've been trying to
Holy shit, I'm so lucky,
word,
bro.
but like just be more careful or just be more mature, I guess, which is natural for all of us. I mean, I'm still a big child in a lot of ways. But you kind of realize that it's like, well, as you're doing that, actually your audience is growing. It's not like you're losing your audience. It's not like they're abandoning you. I do just think that there is, like even what you were saying with that, it goes, the problem with, because who the hell cares what some ghetto black chick says on Myron's show, And I like Myron. I've done his show before, but who cares what one of these fucking chicks says on there? But the reason to care is because that is the type of thing that will convince normal, reasonable people that, you know what? In fact, you're right. This is too fucking insane. Like they're praising Adolf Hitler. Like this is, and so you just like, I don't know, like in the same like vein of these second and third order effects, it's like I just think you want to try to encourage people to be smart. You're right, we can't control what our audience says, and me and you have experienced that in the last couple weeks. A very clear demonstration of that, and that's good. Our audience shouldn't just be taking our orders or anything, but we should exert influence where we can and go like, hey, think about this. Just like be smart and think about what you're setting up here, because of course, like there's no question that they're thinking about plugging up this hole. Now, what they're going to be able to do about it, who knows? It does feel to me like maybe this thing's gotten away from them, but it's not like they don't have a few tricks up their sleeves. And so we should. I mean, I think we should just think about these things and what the response to it might be, because they're certainly planning. They're very aware of this. That's one of the things that was interesting about Netanyahu's meeting there. It's so interesting that, I mean, I know you must have just been cackling, laughing like I was at this, but the fact that Netanyahu had to deny that he had Charlie Kirk murdered multiple times is like they're aware that things are different. You know what I mean? Like, it really is just so hard to imagine. Maybe because I'm a little older, it's like even more hard for me to imagine, because it's just like, yo, this is so unthinkable. It's so unthinkable when I was younger that this would be the case today. But it is, and they've got their eye on this as well. So we're, like you said, we have an opportunity that feels almost like a trap.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, you know, it's like it just like has that feeling like you're like, wait a minute, this whole thing has been lifted and we're all cool now. It's like, wait, we all agree it's retarded to trans kids? Everyone agrees. Okay. That's kind of interesting. But
So
at the
do
same
I
time,
go
it does
to
feel like
G3 or
okay, the second
G2
act is
here?
coming, or the next
Gotta
act
move
is
this
coming,
rook
and
though,
I
right?
worry about what that's going to be.
Yeah, I totally agree. You're waiting for the next shoe to drop, you know, because we've experienced
If I gotta move
this
this
like
rook here, right?
suffocating political control that seems like they almost know every permutation of how things are going to end up, and now it's
I
like,
definitely think.
so Mark Zuckerberg decided free speech is good now? Like, I don't believe that. I
Right.
don't believe that there is an ulterior motive, and I think that I'm always just in favor of doing the thing that's unpredictable. Because if to the extent that they have power, it's because they can predict what will happen next or how we'll behave. And so that's why I try to just surprise people and do the thing they're not expecting me to do. Like, if they bring me back on Twitter and maybe there's an angle, it's because they're expecting me to be what they think I am, which is a troll or a hater or whatever. So maybe walk it back or be restrained or, you know. And I think that we really need to be intentional and cautious. Like, after Charlie died, I called up a lot of people that I know that are like influencers. And I was like, we just really need to be careful to not step into a trap, because it seems like whenever there's a crisis, and you never think it's going to happen, but when there's a crisis, you get kind of riled up and you act in ways that are not smart, you know? And by you, I mean anyone does. Me, you, anyone, because emotions are high. Rationality goes out the window, and it's easy to forget all the hard-fought lessons we've learned over the years that have, you know, produced bad results for us. So, you know, with all the violence, chaos, the uncertainty, unprecedented nature of where we are, we just have to be extremely cautious, vigilant, intentional about what we're doing, what we're
I thought
saying.
that would have been checkmate.
It just can't be sloppy, you know, because if we're sloppy, the thing about Netanyahu and them is they are really smart, and they are you think they don't know? They know. Like you said, they know astutely. Even to the extent that Matt Walsh says, let them kill each other. That's a brilliant innovation, because they knew the pro-Israel thing was losing. And you think they're just going to keep pressing that button until it doesn't work anymore. No, they switched up quick and said, we can't get him to support. We'll get him to say this line about, well, we don't want Muslims here. They reinvent all the time. So the game is not over. That's what people need to keep in mind. You run through the finish line. You run through first base. It isn't over. And I like what you said. They always have something up their sleeve. So
damn, I thought that was a win right there.
We're running away with it. We get careless, sloppy, do a victory celebration. It's still in flux.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so I wanted to ask you a little bit about this, because I think this is a topic that I find very fascinating, and I think you're kind of like uniquely like a perfect example of this. But so 2019, you got your YouTube channel taken, and then was that around the same time you got kicked off everything else, or was it like Twitter? Like, when did you get kicked off of that? I know you ultimately got let back on, but like there was a period where you were gone.
I was banned from YouTube in February 2020, and then Twitter in July 21.
Okay, all right. So there's a real interesting dynamic to me, and I watch this happen with people who I know, people I'm friendly with.
I think I might win this right here.
You know, like I knew, like Gavin
I think
McGinnis,
I go
a good example of somebody who got canceled off everything.
F2
really
with the queen. I think that's literally the win.
Stefan Molyneux kicked off everything, really sidelined him. Like, it's almost like they're not
I don't know what
in
he's
the
going to do,
conversation anymore, at least the way that they were.
Right.
Milo,
I think if he moved his
great
queen
example of that, where he was really
to G2,
seemed
though, I
like
think
he was about to
saves it.
break through to mainstream success,
Just
and
kinda
they
fucked.
squashed that. And somewhere along the years,
Hopefully this stupid Brazilian doesn't know how to play chess. I'm really hoping.
I thought Andrew Tate,
I'm really hoping.
I thought
Trying to
was
get back to
interesting
200.
example. I'd never heard of Andrew Tate until he got canceled from everything, and then all of a sudden it was just like dominating the algorithm, and he was everywhere. And I think you were one of those guys too. So like even like you got back on Twitter, and I'm sure that helped, but you were already kind of surging before, I think, if I've got that correct. And so was there a period? So you're out there in the unpersoned world, and was there a time where you were like, oh, this is actually working here in this world? And like, what were you streaming on?
I was on Cozy TV, which is my own site.
Oh, you just made your own thing. Okay, cool. Yeah. So I was like, I haven't heard of that. But so that was, and did you start getting numbers there?
No, I was languishing. It was tough. I mean,
that nigga made his own fucking.
The thing about deplatforming is it works. When I got banned from everything, I was not getting great.
Bro, this nigga fucking made his own website, bro. Like, I just wonder what would happen if he stuck with that shit. That shit takes time, bro. I'm trying to make a fucking website now. They fucking took his YouTube in 2019. That's fucked.
Numbers. It was when I got back.
I'm banned on
Rumble
Twitch right now. That's why I'm streaming on fucking YouTube.
That I got on Rumble in the first place.
Rumble seems like it was a big deal in the set because they were the first one who really started doing numbers.
Yes. Yeah, and it was a live streaming platform. For a period I was banned from all live streaming platforms from roughly 21
what
until
is he
Rumble,
gonna do, bro? I want to get this checkmate.
Everybody, which maybe was like 2023.
Probably
right
asked his
around
older
there.
brother, like, what the heck do I do?
That was the wilderness. I literally could not stream my show unless I made a website, which is very costly and time consuming. And what helped was being prolific and having like a core of supporters.
Yeah.
I do a show every day. There's a parasocial relationship. It's a cult-like following. But a lot of these guys, they either stop making content, like Molyneux, they upload it to a platform that doesn't work. Like BitChute was pretty rough in the early days. And Gavin put all his stuff behind a paywall. And that's just, in my opinion, a bad business model. Because it's like you got to give out the free samples to get people to walk through the door.
Right.
And when it's to pay to get in, you don't get the conversion.
You don't get new listeners. Yeah.
Exactly. So I had a strategy where I said, I'm going to take a financial hit. Like I made no money for 2 years. But I knew it's like if I keep people coming through the door, eventually things will change, or I can still make a little money if it's free and if it's good. And that's how I was able to just kind of like survive. But
I think you think he's cucked.
Yeah, but it does. Okay, fair enough. But it does 100%. Just seem like like whatever. If the goal was to shut you up, well, that certainly didn't work out very well for them. And there does seem. I think there's just something interesting about the fact that. It seems, at least like we were just saying, waiting for the other shoe to drop, but it seems at least for the time being that the cancel thing just stopped working and actually started like kind of injecting more life into the people who were getting canceled. Like I thought, like obviously you're saying these years were rough, but on net, I think you may have benefited from that. And maybe I'm wrong, because maybe if you were just on YouTube and Twitter this whole time, you lost out on a lot from that. So like maybe I'm wrong about that, but at the very least, it seems to have not worked or something like that. And I thought Andrew Tate and Alex Jones too were like kind of examples of that, where it was just like, that's not, you didn't remove them from the conversation. They're more, like all three of you guys are more present than ever. Whereas some of those other guys just like never kind of got back to where they were. I guess Gavin is back on Twitter now, I think. He
just last week, I think. Yeah, to me, it's more, in my opinion, a function of your strategy and just kind of, it seems that the people that have survived the longest are the people with a show. Only because if you have a show, people know when to tune in. It is every day. Like Alex Jones does 3 hours every day. And he's on radio, which really helps. Because I don't think he ever got censored from there. But I was never a believer in the Streisand effect thing, because it's like I can't process credit cards for my business. There's no Streisand effect where you can't make money, you can't have a bank account, and all that stuff. So it really, in my opinion, was Trump got banned from everything. And I think venture capital and private equity, they do what they do best, and they looked at him like an undervalued asset. And they came in and said, this guy's banned from everything. We can actually upset Silicon Valley and the market there if we make censorship-proof Rumble. It's like if I'm banned on Twitter, no one's going to build a new Twitter around me. But if Trump is banned on Twitter, you actually can build a Rumble, a true social around him. And in a way, that explains to me 2024, because that is who came in. Little tech, it's Andreessen Horowitz, it's the Teal Club, it's Elon Musk. He was kind of like their guy, commercially and politically. And then I think that the rising tide lifted all the boats. That's kind of how I interpret it, because we were headed towards like total annihilation of free speech. Like my listener base shrunk dramatically when I was in the wilderness.
Yeah, wasn't it wild seeing like everybody flip out about the FCC chairman threatening Jimmy Kimmel?
Yeah,
There's free speech. Free speech is finally at risk in America after like the last 5 years. And you're like, really? Oh, really? Was this the one? Which, by the way, was a stupid thing for the FCC chair to say that. Totally, like, talk about seizing defeat from the jaws of victory.
Yes.
Like, okay, now you handed them a talking point. This guy is dying in the wilderness, you know. This is a couple other things I want to talk about. I want to talk about.
What do you guys on chat? What do y'all think about this shit?
Like Tucker, Candace, and some of that stuff, but so there. You know, there's just been a lot of questions that are raised over the censorship stuff, and like I said, there's some areas that I struggle with myself, like how exactly I feel. I think I kind of landed about where you were on the Charlie Kirk thing. Like, look, like the government shouldn't be involved. They're not technically inciting violence, but like there really should be consequences for this. There should be some type of social consequences, and in fact, I'm a big believer in social consequences. But what do you think, like, in terms of? You know, I think I heard you say something like, look, the right's in power now. When the left gets back in power, they're going to be censoring people.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we should be doing things like that now. But, like, what do you mean by that?
I don't know why he did that. This guy's retarded.
I mean, you seem to agree with me when I said that. But, like, should the FCC chairman be threatening Jimmy Kimmel and people like that?
No, I think that was just tactically dumb.
Yeah,
but
I agree.
I do believe that we are in, like, a war, basically. We are in a race. And we know that because, like you said, under Biden, like, they were engaging in censorship. It was coming from the press office. It was coming from, I don't know how many departments and agencies, but it was quite a few of them that they were giving orders. Take this account, that post, take that down, the OSHA stuff. And they wasted no time in doing that. Like, Biden got in, and it was just a whirlwind of J6, censorship, everything you can think of, a naked power grab. And I do believe that if Trump leaves office and a Democrat comes in, they're going to do it again. And so I'm a big believer that the right wing needs to really disempower the left institutionally. Like, if they were doing it under a different pretense, I would like what they're doing at Harvard and Columbia. The problem is they're doing it.
It's not on behalf of America.
Right.
Yeah.
For some other reason. But it's like, yeah, like, we should work to disorganize the left. We should work to go after their radicals, like Antifa. We should put the pressure on them hard. We should put the pressure on the far left. We should put the pressure on their funding mechanisms, their stuff, because if we lose, they will do it to us indiscriminately. They have no qualms about it, and they'll be more competent about it, and like, then they'll make the country the way they want it to be. So, yeah, I'm a big believer in, like, we should use the levers of power. I don't know about, like, censoring them on Twitter, let's say, but institutionally, yeah, we should be playing to win.
Yeah, you know, I said on my show, and this is, you know, from my particular strain of libertarianism or whatever, but I was like, I basically said the same thing as you. I was like, look, I don't view it as a free speech violation because, like, Jimmy Kimmel isn't a person anymore. Like, you're part of the regime. Like once you, there is, and I know it's a bit of a gray area of where you draw the line when someone, I'm not going to say, hey, you pay your taxes, therefore you're part of the regime. But, like, no, when you just become what Jimmy Kimmel is, you're no longer a citizen expressing their views. It just tactically, it was such a blunder. The guy's already done. We're killing him already. Mm-hmm. So, like, what do we even? Me and you get better numbers than these guys get. So, like, why do we need to make them a free speech martyr? Like, It was just like shit. But I do think that, and it's one of the great disappointments of the Trump administration, is that, you know, for all that talk about, like, Project 2025 and how he's going to be, like, permanently, he's going to overthrow democracy and all of this, it's like, okay, but that was no. But there should have been, like, this time. Like, conservative and right-wing America should have been like, hey, we have to do something that, like, dismantles their mechanism. And I do think, like, you know,
I lost the fuck out that.
All of college is a government program. The whole thing's a government program.
Holy shit.
It's like, yeah, we should be shutting down as much of this stuff as we can. Just destroying it. So I don't really think, and maybe this is where me and you disagree, but I never believe that right-wingers are going to be able to capture and use these institutions. I think bureaucratic institutions are progressive by their very nature. They're egalitarian by their very nature. It's like that. But you can smash a lot of it, you know, or at least attempt. I mean, maybe you get struck down by the courts, but, like, at least try. There seems to be no attempt to even be like, how do we make sure this doesn't happen to our guys next time?
Right.
And in fact, I think part of that's because Trump doesn't really even view them as his guys.
Yeah.
Like, you know, Donald Trump, I thought one of them, and you were there on January 6th, so curious to ask you a little bit about that. But I thought one of the most disgusting things I ever saw Donald Trump do was when he threw the January 6th guys under the bus.
Yes.
Like days after it, or maybe the day after it even. And okay, ultimately he pardoned them after letting them languish in prison for years. Okay, so you don't get like that much credit from me for that. But like, look, man, I never bought any of all the leftist claims about January 6th were always like hyperbolic insanity. You know, like it wasn't an insurrection, and Donald Trump didn't incite violence. But at the same time, if you're a leader and you told everybody that they just stole this election from me,
thought he was going to get away with that.
and then you said you're going to go there, and then your people did what would be reasonable to do if the election was stolen from them, right? Like, it is not the claim, just like the Democrats were making the claim with Russia. It's like, well, then we should be nuking Moscow. Like, according to what you're saying, we should be at war with them now. Well, according to what you're saying, Donald Trump, you should storm the Capitol if that's the case. And so he kind of led his people into this. And then literally, because at the end of the day, it does seem that really what motivates Donald Trump is his own ego, his own greatness. And if they were like, oh, you're going to get impeached or removed, or you're going to get this if you don't go. So he went, oh, okay, fine. And then threw his own people under the bus. I thought that was like disgusting.
Yeah, and he had the full power to pardon them in the first place.
Right there.
Could have done it. He had 3 weeks to do it, or 2 weeks, I guess is what it was. And yeah, at least for me, I was almost charged with conspiracy. They were considering charges against me. That was in the New York Times. And, you know, and other people obviously did go to jail. And I was there because Trump told me to be, you know, like Trump. And by that, I mean, I was going to be at the speech. I was not going to be at the Capitol building. The speech was at the Ellipse. Capitol was miles away. And Trump said, we are going to the Capitol to make our voices heard. I said, oh, well, Trump's going to be there. I guess it's cool. So I went there, and if I had been in jail, and other people were, is that not his fault? He saw no responsibility. And that is kind of his MO. I mean, he throws a lot of people under the bus. He is, I think, motivated by vanity. And here's the problem with that. If he's not in it to win it, then he's activating the enemy with no intention of following through.
That's right.
He got in office. He's like, oh, I won. So it's not that serious for him. And he can pardon himself when this is all over. And he's rich, so he can go. But if the country turns upside down, we're all going to be paying the price. And so that was my big beef with him, among others, in 24, is like, look, you guys don't understand. He did not learn his lesson. He never does. He hasn't changed at all. If anything, he's just more tired and cares less. And as a consequence, it's going to be just as inefficient as the first term, in which case we shouldn't even bother. In which case we're better off not poking the bear. Let's just let Kamala catch a hot potato and forget about it, because he's going to start something he can't finish. That was kind of my problem.
Yeah, it's in a weird way, it's kind of true about the people who stormed the Capitol building too. Like, you're like, yo, I don't think you realize what you're doing. I know you think this is funny. Like, I know you think it's funny. Oh, you fart on Nancy Pelosi's desk? That's really funny. Hey, you know what government is? It's not your friend. You know what I mean? Like, these are the biggest, most powerful gangsters in all of the land. And like, they're going to crush you and lose no sleep over it. And, you know, I was, like I said before, like, I voted for Trump in 24. I didn't vote for him in 2016, but I was rooting for, like, it couldn't help. But I mean, like, the 2016 election day coverage will forever go down as just like the greatest thing ever. Like, the montages of MSNBC and the Young Turks and all this stuff was like, but I guess I'm friends with the Young Turks now because we're all against the genocide or whatever. But like, at the time, it was just like so amazing. 2020, I wasn't even rooting for him, because I really did feel exactly that. Especially, I was just so furious at him for the year that was 2020. I mean, like, talk about just like, my God, what a failure. Like, in the moment of your life, you were in the seat of power and failed so hard. And just, you know, instituted totalitarianism in the United States of America. It's like the craziest shit ever. And I did feel exactly like you felt, which if people can remember back, I mean, 2020 was such a crazy year with the mass riots in the streets and the censorship and the lockdowns and all of this. And I was just kind of like, what do we get for this?
Right.
Like, it's okay. Like, we're kicking a hornet's nest, and without a plan associated with it, like for top marginal tax cuts or something like that. Like, what is and it just seems like, which you get from Dick Cheney anyway, you know, like, so it did just feel like that. And I think that's a really wise observation, that like, you never want to like it's the same way I feel about January 6th. Like, what are you doing? Are you overthrowing the U.S. government right now? Because if you are, you better fucking be prepared to do that, Like, it is not wise to do that. You're just doing it with no strategy. Oh, we'll just take selfies inside. Like, okay, all right. I don't think you guys actually realize what you're dealing with. And I think, particularly in the United States of America, where we have this kind of, we're a very, very wealthy country, and we have an enormous, powerful government, the most powerful government in the history of the world, but generally speaking, like if you don't cross them, they're fairly polite to you. You know what I mean? Like they're not like, it's like, hey, you get your taxes in. Like, listen, we're taking half your money. You have that in on time to us. But as long as you do that within reason, you can kind of, and people get very comfortable and kind of like are a bit removed from what the real nature of government is. And you don't understand that it's like, look, man, like John Brennan might seem fine when he's on TV, but you cross that motherfucker and he will kill you and not lose a wink of sleep over it. Like, these are people who will launch wars on false pretenses. These are people who will back both sides of a war and just let the killing happen, And, man, you really want to be careful about crossing them. Okay, so the January 6th stuff is where these accusations of you being a Fed have come from. Which, full transparency here, I do not believe that you're a Fed. I don't fucking know. Who the hell knows? Everybody, you're a Fed. Everyone's a Fed. I don't know who's the Fed and who's not a Fed. But I know that this was something that, Tucker had said. And I think
this nigga waited.
by this, and understandably.
This nigga waited 3 hours into this shit to address the Fed thing. Okay. All right. I thought it was going to go the whole time and he wasn't going, like ultimate Glade session, like they disagreed a little bit, but I don't know. I don't think that guy's a Fed. I don't think so, but let's. I don't know. Let me hear.
So, I think that's it's a particular type of accusation. That is, it's a very frustrating one, I think, in a way, because it's kind of like, oh, everything you said is undermined now, right? Like I don't have to deal with anything, and I think that, anyway, I understand why that upset you a lot, but I think from what I've heard, a lot of this comes from the January 6th stuff and the accusations that you were encouraging people to go into the Capitol. So what's the deal with all that?
Well, it even goes back to something else, which is the Joe Kent story, which I brought up before, because. I was at January 6th, and at January 6th, I got up there and I gave a speech. And in the speech, I gave speeches at all these events, by the way. I went to the Atlanta State Capitol, Harrisburg, Phoenix, Lansing, and even D.C. And I gave speeches at Governor's Mansion, state capitals in D.C. before. And J6, we thought it was going to be the speech on the Ellipse, and then we were going to maybe do something at the actual Capitol building, although I wasn't going to be there. But there were plans for there to be stages there. And, so like I said, I went to the speech. Trump said, go to the thing. We went to the thing, and somebody said, you got to give a speech. So I said, okay, find me a megaphone. I get a megaphone. I jump up on a thing. And we're like 500 feet from the Capitol. We're not even near the building. We're like on the street next to the lawn. And in the speech, I said, we're taking the Capitol back, keep moving, take down the barriers. And then we left. We didn't go in. I wasn't even close to the building. And this video had been out there for a long time. And people knew I was there and didn't get charged. I got my money frozen, although I wasn't public about that. I got on the no-fly list. I went public with that, went public with the money later. There was never an accusation until like about a year later. And then people started to create this story that
you gotta persevere, fellas.
I was leading people in and I didn't get charged. Now, where it started with Tucker is with Joe Kent. Because now, like 2 years later, I make potentially Joe Kent.
Should I roll another L?
And Joe Kent was a close friend of Tucker's.
Right.
Joe Kent is in the CIA. And that is how we attacked him. We attacked him on that basis. And of course, it was in self-defense. He said that he disavowed me, condemns all my views, we're keeping you out. And I looked at him as very threatening because like we talked about before, he's kind of boxing me out intentionally. So we made him lose. And it was a couple months after this is where I first got the inkling of it, Michelle Malkin, who's a good friend of mine,
Yeah, I know Michelle. I've had her on the show before. She's great.
She's amazing.
Yeah.
And she's married to a Jewish guy, so you can't be mad at her.
Look at that. Good woman.
And he's great too, actually. He's pretty based himself. But so she communicates to me through a mutual friend that she gets this really weird call from Tucker. She says that Tucker never calls her. Sometimes she texts him and he'll give her thumbs up, but they don't really talk. She says, but he calls her out of the blue asking about me and asking about Kanye. Did Nick make Kanye go crazy? Did Nick try to take Trump out at the Kanye dinner?
I don't think anyone can hold you responsible for that.
Yeah, you can blame me for a lot, but that's
no, this one rests squarely on the shoulders of Pete Davidson. We all know that. We all know that. You get your family stolen by Pete Davidson, you're going to lash out at the world.
You're going to get radicalized. Yeah. But so he's calling her asking about all this stuff and about J6. And she said it was very strange. Like, it felt like he was reading from a script. He was asking these questions. And she just told me to be on alert. Then I get a call from Anya Parampil, the wife of Max Blumenthal at Gray Zone. They're doing a piece about me. And she asked me about the Capitol. And I tell her the story. I said I was 500 feet away. I testified. I got subpoenaed by Congress. I said I testified under oath. I did not talk to law enforcement. She publishes this 3-part hit piece about me saying that I'm basically what Tucker said, that I'm here to make America first look bad, that I'm a Fed, that I made Joe Kent lose. The only reason I made Joe Kent lose is because I'm a Fed trying to whatever. And so I do a big stream reviewing the hit piece and debunking basically the whole thing. Then I get a call from Bryson Gray, the MAGA rapper. Now he's a Christian rapper. He's working for a company called Influenceable, which they pay influencers to push social media campaigns. He goes, my wife just got a new campaign from Influenceable. They're paying people money to post the link to this article with the hashtag FedFuentes. And there's like a whole spreadsheet. It said, or a whole like readout. It said the campaign is FedFuentes. Post the link to this article and say these things, and you get paid. And someone posted it, this like state representative in New York. I forget his name a long time ago, but he was the only one who had posted it. I put them on blast. Influenceable calls me up. Please stop talking about us. We will take it down. We promise. Everyone's trying to broker this big truce. That's how, because I was pro Tucker. I was a big fan up until that point. And I said, So clearly, because him and Blumenthal are tight, he was fishing because he knew Michelle for this story. Blumenthal's wife wrote it, and that was like a coordinated hit job in retaliation for their buddy Joe Kent, who lost. And anyway, so that's kind of where the rivalry started. And by the way, I know for a fact that at a recent dinner, Tucker, even before he talked shit about me in July, he was pushing that script to anyone who would listen, to other e-celebrities, to students, saying, yeah, Nick is this gay kid, he's trans, and he's a Fed, and he's here to make us look bad. So this was in private, and he was kind of suggesting that on a show, and then he explicitly said it this summer.
Well, I guess he implied it with me. Because I heard people on Twitter saying this, so it was, which I think I don't remember exactly the details of this, but I think you had said something that pissed me off. Not that, whatever, it's water under the bridge, but I think you had said something that pissed me off, and so I just didn't respond to it. And just like the way people were coming at me was like a little disrespectful, so I was like, "Fuck you, I don't have to answer this." But he said when I was on the show something like we were talking about Ray Epps. And then he was like, there's someone else who was on camera and he kind of put the words in my mouth. He went, as I'm sure you know. Yeah. And I did not even pick up on that until like people were showing me the clip of it. And I certainly never thought he was talking about you. And he never said anything to me about that. But then, of course, right, I did see with Candace where he did explicitly say it. And I think, I guess maybe the thing about it is that it does seem, just on the surface of it, and I'm not accusing you of being a Fed at all. Like, I don't think you're a Fed. But I guess just on the surface of if there's a video of you advocating people go into the Capitol and the way they were just getting everybody, and it does seem like, although you're obviously a lot bigger now than you were then, you still would have been a pretty nice scalp to be on their mantle. You know what I mean? Like, it would just be like, oh, wouldn't they go at you for that and try to find some charge or something like that? But is it the case that there's just nothing to charge you with, or what?
There was nothing to charge me with. I mean, they looked at charging me, but I didn't trespass. I wasn't violent. And
wouldn't that be inciting something?
But my lawyer told me I'm protected by the First Amendment for that, because it wasn't like the language was such that it was. And they published a piece about me, and she asked grade 2, actually. He's pretty big.
Of a war, and just let the killing happen, you know? And man, you really want to be careful about crossing it. Okay, so the January 6th stuff is where these accusations of you being a Fed have come from. Which, you know, full transparency here, I do not believe that you're a Fed. I don't fucking know. Who the hell knows? Everybody, you're a Fed. Everyone's a Fed. Right. I don't know who's the Fed and who's not a Fed. But I know that this was something that, you know, Tucker had said, and I think you were very upset by this, and understandably so. I think that that's it's a particular type of accusation that is it's a very frustrating one, I think, in a way, because it's kind of like, oh, you're just, everything you said is undermined now, right? Like, I don't have to deal with anything, and I think that you know, anyway, I understand why that upset you a lot, but I think from what I've heard, a lot of this comes from the January 6th stuff, and the accusation is that you were encouraging people to go into the Capitol. So what's the deal with all that?
Well, it even goes back to something else, which is the Joe Kent story, which I brought up before, because, you know, I was at January 6th, and at January 6th, I got up there and I gave a speech, and in the speech, I gave speeches at all these events, by the way. I went to the Atlanta State Capitol, Harrisburg, Phoenix, Lansing, and even D.C. And I gave speeches at Governor's Mansion, state capitals in D.C. before. And J6, you know, we thought it was going to be the speech on the Ellipse, and then we were going to maybe do something at the actual Capitol building, although I wasn't going to be there. But there were plans for there to be stages there. And, you know, so like I said, I went to the speech. Trump said, go to the thing. We went to the thing, and somebody said, you got to give a speech. So I said, okay, find me a megaphone. I get a megaphone. I jump up on a thing, and we're like 500 feet from the Capitol. We're not even near the building. We're like on the street next to the lawn. And in the speech, I said, we're taking the Capitol back, keep moving, take down the barriers. And then we left. You know, we didn't go in. I wasn't even close to the building. And this video had been out there for a long time. And people knew I was there and didn't get charged. I got my money frozen, although I wasn't public about that. I got on the no-fly list. I went public with that, went public with the money later. There was never an accusation until like about a year later. Then people started to create this story that, that I was leading people in and I didn't get charged. Now, where it started with Tucker is with Joe Kent. Because now, like, 2 years later, I make potentially Joe Kent lose the election. And Joe Kent was a close friend of Tucker's.
Right.
Joe Kent is in the CIA. And that is how we attacked him. We attacked him on that basis. And of course, it was in self-defense. He said that he disavowed me, condemns all my views, we're keeping you out. And I looked at him as very threatening because, like we talked about before, he's kind of boxing me out intentionally. So we made him lose. And it was a couple months after this is where I first got the inkling of it, Michelle Malkin, who's a good friend of mine.
Yeah, I know Michelle. I've had her on the show before. She's great.
She's amazing.
Yeah.
And she's married to a Jewish guy, so you can't be mad at her.
Look at that. Good woman.
But and he's great too, actually. He's pretty based himself. But so she communicates to me through a mutual friend that she gets this really weird call from Tucker. She says that Tucker never calls her. Sometimes she texts him and he'll give her thumbs up, but they don't really talk. She says, but he calls her out of the blue asking about me and asking about Kanye. Did Nick make Kanye go crazy? Did Nick try to take Trump out at the Kanye dinner?
I don't think anyone can hold you responsible for that.
Yeah, you can blame me for a lot, but that's
no, this one rests squarely on the shoulders of Pete Davidson. And we all know that. We all know that. You get your family stolen by Pete Davidson, you're going to lash out at the world.
You're going to get radicalized. Yeah. But so he's calling her, asking about all this stuff and about J6th, and she said it was very strange. Like, it felt like he was reading from a script. He was asking these questions, and she just told me to be on alert. Then I get a call from Anya Parampil, the wife of Max Blumenthal at Gray Zone. They're doing a piece about me, and she asked me about the Capitol. And I tell her the story. I said I was 500 feet away. I testified. I got subpoenaed by Congress. I said I testified under oath. I did not talk to law enforcement. She publishes this 3-part hit piece about me saying that I'm basically what Tucker said, that I'm here to make America First look bad, that I'm a Fed, that I made Joe Kent lose. The only reason I made Joe Kent lose is because I'm a Fed trying to whatever. And so I do a big stream reviewing the hit piece and debunking basically the whole thing. Then I get a call from Bryson Gray, the MAGA rapper. Now he's a Christian rapper. He's working for a company called Influenceable, which they pay influencers to push social media campaigns. He goes, my wife just got a new campaign from Influenceable. They're paying people money to post the link to this article with the hashtag FedFuentes. And there's like a whole spreadsheet. It said, or a whole like readout. It said the campaign is FedFuentes. Post the link to this article and say these things, and you get paid. And someone posted it, this like state representative in New York. I forget his name a long time ago, but he was the only one who had posted it. I put them on blast. Influenceable calls me up. Please stop talking about us. We will take it down. We promise. Everyone's trying to broker this big truce. That's how, because I was pro Tucker. I was a big fan up until that point. And I said, So clearly, because him and Blumenthal are tight, he was fishing because he knew Michelle for this story. Blumenthal's wife wrote it, and that was like a coordinated hit job in retaliation for their buddy Joe Kent, who lost. And anyway, so that's kind of where the rivalry started. And by the way, I know for a fact that at a recent dinner, Tucker, even before he talked shit about me in July, he was pushing that script to anyone who would listen, to other e-celebrities, to students, saying, yeah, Nick is this gay kid, he's trans, and he's a Fed, and he's here to make us look bad. So this was in private, and he was kind of suggesting that on a show, and then he explicitly said it this summer.
Well, I guess he implied it with me. Because I heard people on Twitter saying this, so it was, which I think, I don't remember exactly the details of this, but I think you had said something that pissed me off. Not that, whatever, it's water under the bridge, but I think you had said something that pissed me off, and so I just didn't respond to it. And just like the way people were coming at me was like a little disrespectful, so I was like, fuck you, I don't have to answer this. But he said when I was on the show something, like we were talking about Ray Epps, and then he was like, there's someone else who was on camera and he kind of put the words in my mouth. He went, as I'm sure you know. Yeah. And I did not even pick up on that until like people were showing me the clip of it. And I certainly never thought he was talking about you. And he never said anything to me about that. But then, of course, right, I did see with Candace where he did explicitly say it. And I think, I guess maybe the thing about it is that it does seem, just on the surface of it, and I'm not accusing you of being a Fed at all. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't think you're a Fed. But I guess just on the surface of if there's a video of you advocating people go into the Capitol and the way they were just getting everybody, and it does seem like, although you're obviously a lot bigger now than you were then, you still would have been a pretty nice scalp to be on their mantle. You know what I mean? Like, it would just be like, oh, wouldn't they go at you for that and try to find some charge or something like that? But is it the case that there's just nothing to charge you with, or what?
There was nothing to charge me with. I mean, they looked at charging me, but I didn't trespass. I wasn't violent. And
wouldn't that be inciting something?
But my lawyer told me I'm protected by the First Amendment for that, because it wasn't like the language was such that it wouldn't be. And also, no one else got charged with incitement. The charges were trespassing, conspiracy, all things that didn't apply to me.
Right. Okay. All right. Fair enough. Yeah, I think maybe, it's like, and I think maybe this is partially why you get that rap, which I think is unfair. It's unfair to call people Feds, unless you really have fucking detailed, like, I have the evidence and I'm willing to show it. It's just like, it's an unfair accusation. I think, like, when Ray Epps, well, by the way, do you think he was a Fed?
I don't know, to be honest. I'm skeptical, but it's possible.
Yeah, I lean toward thinking he was. Just the way the Democrats were defending him seemed so bizarre to me. But anyway. So, like, there's that famous video I'm sure you've seen, everyone's seen, where Ray Epps is in the crowd and he starts saying, we're going to storm the Capitol. And everyone immediately around him starts screaming Fed. Now, in that moment, they have no way of knowing that he's a Fed. Mm-hmm. But it's just like, dude, that's what Feds do. That's what Feds do. They come in here and do this. And I think the reason why you might get some of that is because, in the same sense, I think there's a certain feeling of like when people are opposing Israel and opposing the warfare state, and then someone else goes over, it was like, no, and we got to attach that to Nazi shit or something like that. Not that you literally say that. I'm using these terms loosely. But like there's a feeling of almost like that. Like just like with Ray Epps going, hey, come on, man. That's what they're trying to cast us as, not as this. And I think the other thing, and I want to preface this because I really do, I am not, look, I'm 15 years your senior, and I do the same shit too. So I'm not like, you know, I had, there was one with Dave Rubin recently, where Dave Rubin was just talking shit about me on some show. Like it was, I don't know why my name came up. Someone asked him a question and mentioned me, and then he goes, "I think Dave Smith's a moron who doesn't know what he's talking about," and blah blah blah. And so I just publicly challenged him to a debate. Now, truth be told, I don't really want to debate Dave Rubin. Who the fuck wants to like? What is this even? But it's just like, I don't know. We're in this game, and like, what do you do when someone who has millions of followers is saying I'm a moron and I don't know what I'm talking about? You're weaponizing your audience against me, and I only have one tool in my toolkit, which is I'll debate you. I can't fist fight you. You know, like so. It's like, okay, so let's have a debate and we'll see who's a fucking moron. And now I weaponize the audience back against you, and he accepted but then refused to ever. You know, he's like, a bunch of people have reached out. Patrick Bet-David tried to set it up. Charlie Kirk actually tried to set it up. It was supposed, Charlie Kirk wanted me to come debate, and I said, how about Dave Rubin? Because I know he lives in Florida, and it was right when we were talking our shit. And then he was like, no answer from him. Like, both of them. But so like, I get like, if someone attacks you feel the need to attack them back. It's kind of the game we're in. I do think though, when you're, you know, it leads easy to the perception when you're kind of attacking me, attacking Tucker, attacking Candace. You go, well, what purpose are you really serving here? You know what I'm saying? And it's like, it seems like any voice that's critical of Israel, you know what I'm saying? Like you're going after, and then it does make people say like, do you get the point I'm making? It goes like, okay, so what? Number one, you're saying we got to attach all this toxic baggage to our opposition of Israel, and then number two, anytime there's a critic of Israel who's resonating, it seems like you're trying to take him down a peg. You get what I'm saying?
I do, and from the outside looking in, I get it. But I would say that with Tucker, it started before all that. It started before he was ever criticizing Israel. This was in 2023, at the beginning of 2023. Before October 7th. And, you know, Tucker never said anything negative about Israel up to that point, with the exception of one thing he did about the ADL. And, you know, same thing with Candace. I mean, I supported Candace like I supported Tucker to the hilt. I had an account called Standis Owens. I stan Candace Owens. And we were like gassing her up during the whole thing. And all I ever said about Candace is that it felt like she was kind of blowing smoke up my ass about why she wouldn't do the show with me. And I didn't like that, you know, after she gets all this clout, she's clouded up, she then starts saying it's the Frankists. It's the Frankist. And I said, yeah, that's not true. Like, that's nonsense. And even this year, she invites me on her show, and I ask her, I said, well, is it going to be a hit piece? She goes, no, I don't set anybody up. I get all dressed up. I fly down there, look into, you know, she extended the olive branch, I accept. And she's motherfucking me about drama from a year ago, about you, about are you racist, are you anti-Semitic, why aren't you married, all this kind of stuff. It wasn't a friendly interview. I don't even think it was cordial. I think it was basically, it was an attempted hit job. And, you know, so like with you, I mean, look, we have disagreements, and here we are talking about them. And I think I said during my show, like, I like you and I respect you, but I also speak freely. And if I disagree, I say something. And, you know, these other people got to recognize, like Tucker and Candace, they're more powerful than me. They have institutional backing. Tucker is from Fox. Candace is from Daily Wire. They never got censored from anything. Me, I never had any. They tried to throttle me in the crib. By they, I mean conservatives, from the time I was 18. And I've been banned from most things for 5 years. So it just, to me, it's like a little unfair. It's like when Ben Shapiro quote tweeted me with 1,000 followers. For Tucker,
well, that's something else. I mean, but
I think it's similar. I mean, Tucker and Candace getting together and saying, oh, this guy's like a fad. It's like, yeah, well, you guys have millions and millions of followers that you accumulated serving the system that I was getting killed by for 5 years. So that's why I feel like I have a special license to attack, because it's punching up. But, you know, I don't know what to make of Tucker and Candace. I would say, if I was being charitable, that there's immense distrust on both sides.
Yeah.
And for obvious reasons, because I'm an unknown quantity on the outside who, you know, they probably don't watch everything. They don't know what's happening down here. And on the other side, they are exiting the institutions. So from someone on the outside, it's like, are you CIA? Where are your loyalties? What do you really believe? Are you concealing what you really believe, and to what extent? And so, you know, I guess when I gave Tucker a black eye, so to speak, and kind of retaliated very strongly, maybe at the minimum it made him just kind of respect what I represent. But I'm open to all possibilities, making up with either of them.
Well, that's good. I think it's good to be open to that. You know, I remember like